And some people know, because I talk about it a lot, that I originally did not read for the role of Sean. I originally read and went to callbacks back and forth for the role of Rudy. And it had been, you normally get submitted or brought in for an audition based on your previous work and kind of characters and things like that. And most of my stuff I had done leading up into this was kind of, you know, the cool kid with cool hair and all that, and that was Rudy. And I got the call that I had gotten the movie The Monster Squad that I read for, you know, over the last couple of weeks, but I didn't get the part I read for. I got the role of Sean. And what's funny is I was actually pissed. Because I was a little disappointed because it's a much cooler character. He gets to smoke, he gets to kill more monsters, you know, that guy. And he gets the hot girl at the end, kind of, maybe. Ryan likes to say it's up for debate. But no, I think it worked out just fine because Sean's a good character, and it's a lead in a movie. It's like I'm the guy that's disappointed that I got the lead. But I think it turned out great because I think everybody's exactly in the position they need to be in, and Ryan's a great Rudy. So I think it worked out as good as it could be.
Now, were horror movies and Stephen King novels part of your repertoire already?
Well, ironically, the only Stephen King novel that I had kind of read up until then was Cujo, because I had read for Cujo. I auditioned for Cujo. And so you're like, okay, here's the script, and then here's the sides you're gonna read, and then like, oh, by the way, there's a book that's based off a book, and get the book, and so you're like, wow, I don't know. And Cujo was like a big book for whenever I was what, 8, 9, when Cujo came out, so I didn't get Cujo, but Danny Pintaro did. And I was like, it's a whole movie about trapped in a car and a big slobbering dog, and but Cujo's kind of creepy. But that, you know, and then monster movies, of course, you used to love. I grew up, obviously, you did the math, didn't you? I grew up, you know, late 70s, 80s, and Saturday. This is, where are my young ones in the audience? You know, under 15, under 20, under 30, you know? Okay, so we have a bunch. There used to be a thing not called the internet. There was no cable. To see movies, you went to the movie theater or stayed home on Saturday and watched old movies on Saturday morning right after cartoons. And so I loved old black and white movies. Creature from the Black Lagoon was my favorite creature. So like that's my favorite monster in this is Creature. And we have a kind of a badass creature guy in there, even though he's not exactly creature. He's Gillman.
Not from the Black Lagoon.
Not from the Black Lagoon. He's from the Black Lagoon. Yeah, right. Well, no, that's a different movie too. You know, creature from the like Brownie Bog or something. But so I like that, and then I love Kung Fu theater on Saturday afternoons. So yes, you know. Yes. Let's go get him. So love that. That's my Saturday. You know, old movies like that, and then you get older and you get to research even older, cooler stuff. Because we have cable now and the interwebs, and we can watch as many old stuff as we want to now, which is great. But I think you alluded to a little bit. These are the classic Universal monsters. The only ones that are the Mummy and Dracula are kind of public domain, but Frankenstein, Creature from the Black Lagoon, they're tweaked a little bit, I think, as you mentioned. Bolts, different place, gills go this way instead of this way on our guy. Because this movie was taken to Universal and they passed. Universal said, no, why would we do a movie with all of our monsters and one fighting a bunch of kids? That's lame. And so then a couple years later they made Van Helsing. Hey, let's get all the monsters together and have a guy fighting them. It's like, we did that. And I would even though we all know Monster Squad didn't do phenomenal at the box office in '87, I would much rather be here today, physically here in Denver also, but in this environment of Monster Squad dumb, than be involved with Van Helsing. Because Van Helsing does not have Monster Squad fans. Nope. I mean, Monster Squad fans are actually the best. They really are. They're great.
Now, At the time, Tom Noonan was not the Tom Noonan we all know today, the wonderful character actor. He was sort of just getting his start. But what was it like working with him, and then just the myriad of the great cast in this?
Well, to start with Tom, I have no idea.
Oh.
Tom Noonan's a very method actor.
Yes.
And if you don't know what that means, it's like when you're a method actor, you're that character. So like, he's never out of character, he's doing all this stuff. He's playing this guy in 4 hours of daily makeup. So he comes in at like 5 in the morning, it's 4 hours of makeup to put him in that. We never saw him as Tom Noonan. I had no idea what the guy looked like. I had to go rent Manhunter to see what the guy looked like. And I said, I prefer the makeup, because he is a creepy, creepy actor. He's so good. But that's always the funny joke that we never saw. We never saw Duncan out of makeup either, who plays Dracula, who's pretty much a badass Dracula, even though he's kind of, I think it's kind of, he's very Victorian, the old medallion cape and all that, but he's a badass Dracula, and he's very good. And Tom, we never saw them out of makeup, and until years later, really. You had to rent Manhunter and other stuff they've been in to see what they look like. But the cast was actually, this was a difficult production because you have so many kids. And if you may or may not know, when you're working with kids in Hollywood or on a set, they can only be there for a certain amount of time during the day per state law. During those hours, you have to be in school, also on set, for a minimum number of times. So it's very hard to work with kids. That's why I never work with animals or kids. And so it's a very good balancing act with what Fred and the producers and everything had to do, of get all the kid stuff done as quickly as possible, and then we'd have to go home, and then they shot the rest of the movie. So it was a very grueling 4-month shoot, 3.5, 4 months for all of that.
Nice. I'm going to turn it over to the audience, because I know some of you guys have questions you've been dying to ask.